Okay, so you have low porosity hair, but do you? Before you figure out the mistakes that you're making with your low porosity hair, you actually need to find out if you actually have low porosity hair. So here's what defines low porosity hair. There's lots of ways out there, but in my opinion and according to my research, these are the best ways to identify if you actually even have low porosity hair. So first of all, on low porosity hair, the cuticles on the individual strands on hair are tightly packed and almost close together like in a downward kind of motion. I'm going to show a picture here of like hair under the microscope. And if you see what the hair looks like in that picture under the microscope, there's very little space for it to even allow moisture or anything to penetrate the hair strand. Most of us don't have a microscope at home just lying around where we can put our hair under and see what the hair shaft actually looks like. Now, the most popular test to see what your porosity is, you could do it if you like. I prefer not to. This is called the water test, where you put a strand of your hair, whether it's from a hairbrush or a comb or just from your head, put it in a glass of water. If it sinks to the bottom, it's high porosity. If it's in the middle of the water, it is medium or normal. And then if it floats at the top, it is low porosity. Here's my problem with this. Your hair could be in different states. Your hair, you could have picked a really damaged piece of hair that kind of acts like high porosity hair. You could have maybe a lot of oil on your hair, which makes it sort of float to the top because it's kind of sealed, when it's actually high porosity or medium porosity, but it's floating to the top because it's covered in oil and product. I find that this test is not exactly reliable. So here are the best ways you can actually tell how your hair is low porosity. My name is Angelica. If you don't know me, I post videos twice a week on Wednesdays and Sundays and on Fridays. Sometimes I post an occasional video, just a fun video that you guys might want to see. So feel free to let me know in the comment sections below what you'd like to see on the Friday video or any other video. I would like to help you grow long, healthy, natural hair, and that is the main focus on this channel. So if you're interested in that, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It is right down there, as well as the bell, so you get notifications every single time I post. Let's get into it. Okay, I also just want to address, if you hear any weird noises in the back, that is thunder. The light was perfect. It was bright. It was beautiful. And as soon as I pressed play, thunder, lightning, it looks like it's gonna rain. So if you hear any noises, it's thunder or rain. And that's why the light may be changing as well. So, how do you actually know if you have low porosity hair? Now, also, I just want to say, I haven't done a video on high porosity or medium porosity. The reason I'm focusing on low porosity is because I have done a lot of research around it, and I also have low porosity hair, so I have the most experience with it. But I love to research and share with you guys. So if you'd like information on medium or high porosity, let me know in the comment section below. But this video is only focused on low porosity. So the first way you can tell if your hair is low porosity is it constantly feels dry. It feels like it repels moisture and water. And the best way to tell this, if you're not sure if your hair is repelling moisture, is when you go under the shower. How long does it take for your hair to actually get wet? And I don't mean to hold water, I mean wet, where when you touch your hair it actually feels wet, because my hair takes forever. When I'm taking care of my hair and when I've mastered my routine like how I have now, my hair definitely gets water much easier because I constantly keep it in a moisturized state. But it still takes much longer than the average person. So if your hair takes long to get wet, or it just feels very like dry all the time, you may have low porosity hair. Let's get into the second thing. You need mostly a combination of the things I'm saying, not just one thing. So if it's just one, you might want to monitor your hair for longer. You should have at least 3 of these things to be sure if your hair is low porosity. So the next thing is, products don't really absorb into your hair. Oh, my download is complete. Oh, I've got something to watch tonight. Okay, products don't usually absorb into your hair. And by this, I mean when you put products on your hair, and I don't mean when your hair is like soaking wet and you've packed on styling products like a gel and a styling cream and all that stuff. That's normal for your hair to look kind of white, especially if you put a lot of product. What I'm talking about specifically is if you put any kind of leave-in. It doesn't matter if it's a thick one or a light one or whatever. You put leave-in on your hair, you put a moisturizer, you put your conditioner in, and it just looks like it just sits on your hair. It doesn't only just look like it's sitting on your hair, it also feels like it's sitting on your hair. And if you have low porosity hair and you've experienced that kind of dryness, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, where even as the product is on your hair and it is loaded on, your hair still feels dry. You may have low porosity hair. Here's another factor, and this is your hair feels very oily. And by this, I don't necessarily mean oily as in you put nothing on your hair and it feels oily, because in my experience at least, sometimes I'll even experience a little bit of a dry scalp. I don't usually get dandruff because of I use like tea tree oils and I really focus on my scalp a lot, but your hair just feels kind of dry. So usually your natural oils don't come down through and make the rest of your hair oily. But what I do mean is if you get a little bit of oil and you put it on your hair, it feels like your hair doesn't absorb the oil. The oil is just sitting on your hair. So whenever you just touch your hair, you feel like you get oil on your hands because there's just all this oil that's just like sat on your hair. That also might be because you have low porosity hair, because the oil you're using is not absorbing into your hair, it's just sitting on top. The next thing is your hair takes very long to dry. Now, usually, if your hair has zero product on it and it is only water and it's quite hot, your hair will probably just dry at a normal time. So, the best way to tell is when you style your hair, like maybe if you braid it or if you put any products in it, like gels or anything like that. If your hair takes ages to dry, my hair literally takes like 2 to 3 days to dry if I don't go any under any heat. But even under heat, it still takes a long time to dry. So if your hair is like this, you might have low porosity hair. And the reason why your hair takes long to dry is because as much as it's very difficult for product to get into your hair, when the product actually gets into your hair, and by product I include water, when it gets into your shaft, the spaces in between your hair shaft are so small that it's also hard for a product to leave your hair, which can actually be a good thing. But if you're strapped for time, it's not a good thing because your hair will take forever to dry because the products your hair is just holding onto them. So if you have maybe two or more of these things that I've mentioned, you may have low porosity hair. Again, monitor your hair, see how it behaves like week to week, and then you have an actual great idea. And I always say porosity is actually a better way to look at your hair, in terms of the products, how to style it, the best things you can do for your hair. The porosity is way more important than the texture or your curl pattern, because if your hair is 3B and high porosity and you're using products that are for low porosity 3B hair, it doesn't matter if your curl is tighter or thicker or smoother or rougher, whatever, that doesn't matter because your porosity is what actually really affects the hair. Hair typing was just something that was made to make it easier to identify the kind of hair you have. I don't think it was ever meant to be some whole big drama like what it is now, and everybody's fighting over what's 4C hair and what's not 4C hair. So now let's get into the mistakes you may be making that are affecting your low porosity hair. And I won't just give you the mistakes, I will tell you how to fix them so that you can get your hair to get longer, stronger, and healthier. And if you're wondering why my hair doesn't look the most amazing, I mean, I like this hairstyle. I think it looks pretty good, but it does look very dryish. It's because this is literally a week later. This is a week old hair. So excuse that. That's why my hair doesn't look amazing. I just restyled my little curls here, which have grown like crazy. Look how long that is. That is crazy to me. So the first mistake I know is going to sound so crazy because compared to the products I like to use and that you see a lot of YouTubers recommend, it seems like this point doesn't make sense, but it actually does when you really look into it. And this is using very thick products. Now, here's the thing, the idea is my hair is so dry, so I need to coat it with a lot of thick product that will not leave my hair and absorb so that it stays nice and hydrated. The problem with that is because the gaps in your hair are so tight, thicker products cannot absorb into your hair cuticle because they're just too thick, which is why I always say things like egg protein don't work. Maybe if you have high porosity hair, it would be a little bit more effective for you, but the particles, the size of the protein in an egg are just way too big to penetrate the hair shaft of someone with low porosity. So maybe a little bit will go through, but it's really not going to be effective. So what you want to do is use lighter, more like milky kind of products that will easily absorb into your hair. This goes for deep conditioners, this goes for conditioners. Now, when it comes to actually things that will hold your hair together to style, and like the final stages of your styling, not necessarily your moisturizing stage, then you can use thicker products because you probably need your hair to stick together better. So you need like heavier gels like Eco Styler Gel and Wetline Extreme and maybe the Curl Enhancing Smoothie to kind of hold everything together. But when it comes to moisturizing your hair, you need lighter products. Now, if you find that thicker products tend to work better, What I would suggest is how I do my hair more recently, and that is to style my hair in the shower and put it while your hair is soaking wet so that those thicker products can become a little bit lighter, mix in with some water so that they can easily absorb into your hair. If you just throw on those thick products, they're literally just going to sit there on top of your hair shaft, and when you wash them off, everything's gonna be off, and you're gonna feel like that was such a moisturizing mask, but a day later your hair feels horrible. That is probably why. So either use milky products or use them in the shower or when your hair is soaking wet so that it can easily absorb, or let me just say slightly dilute the product so that it is thin enough for your hair to absorb it. So the next mistake you may be making if you have low porosity hair is that you do not use heat to help products absorb. Now, the main thing I would suggest you use heat for is your deep conditioner. I understand that not everybody has time to have an entire wash day, and maybe you only have time to add heat to one step in your routine, and I would suggest you do that with your deep conditioner. Because let's say you use a thicker conditioner, but because our hair repels moisture and it's so hard to absorb anything, even lighter products sometimes may not be able to absorb into our hair very well. I personally love thick products because my hair is also very thick in terms of my individual strands of hair are many per whatever square inch of my scalp. My hair is so dense and tightly packed. If you have finer hair, however, you can get away with using milky products because you have low porosity hair and it can penetrate fast. For me, it's a mixture of my porosity, but mostly the density of my hair. That is why I use thick products. But if I didn't use them the way I use them, they wouldn't work as efficiently. So I always go under heat whenever I put my deep conditioner on. And the most recent thing I've done, I actually have a video on this and I'll link it at the end of the video or maybe even in the pinned comment and the description box. So check that out. When I moisturize my hair, I also go under heat. And the best way to tell if your product has absorbed into your hair is it will look like there's no product in your hair. That is not a bad thing. It is an amazing thing. So you put the deep conditioner in your hair. Maybe it looks a little bit white. Maybe it looks a little bit like it's sitting on your hair. That's fine. But when you go under heat, and by under heat, I don't mean direct heat. I obviously mean with a plastic bag or a plastic cap on, go under a steamer or like an actual hooded dryer. If you sit under those and then you sit for about maybe 30 minutes, this helps open your hair cuticle. The heat will open up the cuticle, allowing your hair to absorb all the product. And then when you take your cap off, it should look like almost all the product is completely absorbed into your hair. Then you know it's working. Now, this might not happen the first time you do it, but if you consistently do this every single week, probably by the second or third week, you start to notice a difference that your hair is absorbing product much better and you'll see a huge change in your hair in terms of the dryness. Okay, the third thing is something, again, people might get mad at me because this is very popular just in the hair community. I wouldn't even say natural hair, like across the board, whatever kind of hair you have. This is a very popular thing, and this is that when you're done washing your hair, when you wash out your deep conditioner and everything in the shower, you should do your final rinse with cold water. Some people even use ice water. Some people even literally rub ice cubes on their hair. Just to be clear, I've only seen Caucasians doing this, but a lot of people do this, and I actually have seen, I think it's by Babyliss, however you pronounce that brand. Um, they have a cooling flat iron now, so it's literally like, I guess, ice cold, and you can just flatten it over whether it is straight hair or natural hair. It doesn't matter what kind of hair. You can do that to kind of seal your cuticle. Now, here's where it doesn't make sense. If you do this in your final stage in the shower and you rinse out your deep conditioner and then you do a last cold rinse and you have low porosity hair, this is actually going to be detrimental. If you have high porosity hair, which I could address in a video about that, it could possibly be a good thing to at least close your cuticle a little bit. But if your hair is low porosity, your cuticle is already almost closed. So adding heat just opens it up a little bit. If you wash your hair with very cold water, it's just going to seal your cuticle again. And while it may feel smoother in the moment, once you reach your moisturizing and styling stage, that is going to prevent your hair from absorbing all those products. And it's going to be the opposite. Your cuticles are going to be cold, and it will be very difficult for you to style your hair, which is why I say I love to do my hair in the shower while it's still hot. If there's any steam or anything, it's forcing your cuticles to be open to allow all the products in. Now, if you want to do something cool at the end of everything, you have deep conditioned, you have moisturized, and then maybe after the styling process, even with your, whether it's like creams or gels in your hair, and then you go over with the Babyliss flat iron, that's cool. that will probably be fine. You're just sealing in everything. That is totally fine. But if you do this right after deep conditioning and before you moisturize, you encounter the same issue. Sure, the moisture from your deep conditioner will be locked in, but that will only last for like a day or so. Your moisturizer is just going to sit on top of your hair, and your hair will have that very like greasy, moisturizing kind of feel, but dry at the same time. It's raining. Okay, so this leads me into my next tip, and this is that you moisturize your hair when it is dry. Now, dry, I mean in both ways. One, your hair is dry, like how my hair is looking today because I need to wash it. And two, your hair literally has no water on it, or it is just damp, almost dry. I don't know if that's making sense, but like your hair still feels dry. And then when you put moisturizer on it and maybe some oils, you're just kind of sealing in the dryness. And because your hair is low porosity, I'm gonna have to talk a little louder because the rain is getting louder. Already low porosity, your hair is cold. So I would suggest, even when you, let's say you're not moisturizing your hair in the shower, maybe it's a midweek moisturizing or something, I would suggest you use very warm, not hot, very warm water to spray on your hair so that the cuticles open. Then put your product on and then leave it down to dry however you're going to dry it. And this will actually really, really help you because if you moisturize dry hair, the cuticle is already closed, it is sealed, it'll be very difficult for you to moisturize your hair, and you'll basically just be wasting product. So now on to my fifth tip. This may seem like I'm contradicting myself because I kind of am, but not at the same time. This is, you may not be shampooing your hair enough. Now, shampooing has a bad rep in the natural hair community because, yes, it is stripping, it is drying, but it does clean your hair. Now, here's the thing. I'm one of those people who only, on an average month, I will only shampoo my hair once a month, and every other time, so the 3 times out of the month, I will co-wash my hair. Now, here's the thing. I rarely style my hair, even like what I've done today. I don't do this very often. So I don't have gels, I don't have heavy products, and I don't coat my hair in oils throughout the day. Throughout the week, I do not coat my hair in oil. So washing my hair with a conditioner will basically get all the product off very easily, and I can continue to just put the hair back, moisturize it, twist it up, and leave it in the twist for the week. But if you do wash and goes often, if you use a lot of products on your hair, or even if you just use a lot of oil on your hair, I tend to only oil my scalp regularly, and I don't really run the hair down the oil down the rest of my hair except the ends. So if I do a week where I kind of have a lot more oil on my hair, I will shampoo my hair. Even if I just washed it the previous week, I will still go and wash it again. For example, this week I did use a lot of oils. I did a hot oil treatment and I did some scalp massages with some oil throughout the week. So if I continue doing this, if I touch my hands, you can see that you can't really see any oil on my hands. That's because my hair has absorbed the oil, but it doesn't mean it's not oily. So I'm still going to have to shampoo my hair this week, even though I shampooed it last week. So just try and maybe use a sulfate free shampoo or a more moisturizing shampoo. But if your hair is like me most of the week, where I use very little oil and I focus on just moisturizer, and you can go ahead and go a couple weeks. But if you style your hair and you use a lot of products and a lot of oil, you'll be causing excessive buildup, and low porosity hair holds on to buildup because the cuticles are closed. So when you shove products in there, they just get stuck in there. And so every week you're just going to be adding on additional buildup, and your hair is going to be feeling drier and drier because those products have continued to seal off your cuticle, your hair shaft, and so it's very difficult for you to add more moisture and more product into that hair. So if you use any kinds of styling products, or you do wash and goes basically every week, you actually need to shampoo your hair every single week. And despite what it might seem like on your wash day, your hair will retain a lot more moisture. And for this step, I can honestly say the best way for you to figure out what works for you in terms of your shampoo routine is just to monitor your hair and find what works for you. If I washed my hair every week, I used to wash my hair every week and I experienced a lot of dryness until I changed it and started doing every other week a co-wash, and then once a month. So it all depends on the month. Really go by what your hair is feeling compared to just listening to what people say. Because if you do your hair like me and you just put minimal products in your hair every day, and then you shampoo your hair every week and it continues to feel excessively dry, first you can also start by changing your shampoo. Maybe that's the problem. But if your shampoo is not the problem and you just keep doing that, you need to try different things to see what works for your specific hair, because just because you might have the same hair type and the same porosity, it doesn't always mean every single method that I use or every single product that I use may work the same. I do have way more tips for low porosity hair, but I didn't want to make this video 1,000 years long. So let me know in the comment section below if you want even more tips or mistakes that you might be making with your low porosity hair that you can fix. I would love to share them with you, and maybe for other kinds of porosities. Also, hit my face right there if you didn't in the beginning to subscribe. Hit my face here to subscribe to my other channel. Make sure you hit the bell so you get notifications if you didn't in the beginning. Watch the 2 videos on the side of the screen right here if you'd like to see any of my older videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!